we're gonna talk about some lore real quick. So the reason that this argument exists between Blah and I is because mad long ago somebody made the statement that what was it? That's something about cops shooting there was like a situation where the cops were like shooting protesters with like gas canisters and shit. And somebody, I think it was Endor, made a statement about basically like oh yeah, of course they did it because they're cops. And I was like, that doesn't, like, you don't know if it was intentional or not. And then somebody said, oh, it's because they're cops, of course it was intentional. And it was like, and then they're like, it's just like it's just deductive reasoning. And I'm like, it's not true though. Like,
Very cool, so let's focus on this, not on other people.
Wait, Vox. Who said that was deductive reasoning?
I don't remember, but that's how it got stuck onto.
Wait, so they said what was the deductive reasoning exactly? I was zoning out.
That because they were a cop, that they intentionally meant to harm somebody.
Oh, that's not deductive. What? Because it's not.
I know. That's would be like abductive, I guess. Inductive, right?
Oh, yeah. wait, Jim. Would it be inductive or abductive?
I think
both.
God, I always confuse the two because they're kind of opposites.
Okay. I was gonna say because like that abductive is the assumption to the most likely outcome.
Yeah, well, not assumption. It would be inference to the best explanation, basically. But yeah, they're not mutually exclusive though. The reason.
Yeah. And then I said, I think it was like I said like abductive is kind of a fallacy, and then somebody's like, and then Blah went on to inductive. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, even inductive reasoning is a bit of a fallacy.
Oh, Jess, to answer your question, by far Reposa. I don't think you've met them, but definitely them.
Okay. I was gonna say, wait, let me check the chat. Okay, I was gonna say Reposa or Evelyn.
Yeah. Two trans women.
Yeah.
I said just initially. Oh god, that's a bad look.
Oh, Jim, who's your least favorite person to have ever been in the server?
No, I'm not answering.
Lumi.
In case anyone's wondering, it's another trans woman.
Is it Lumi?
Yes.
Yeah, it's Lumi. Yeah, it's Lumi Doomy.
Wait, what?
Doesn't matter, Vox. Now let's get on to the actual important things. So
yes.
Sure, so we're sticking to deductive reasoning here, because formal logic is deductive reasoning. Cool.
Yes.
Cool. So we are using the academic definitions of fallacy and of reasoning and of logic, correct?
All right. So is it the a mistaken belief, especially one based on sound arguments? That one?
No. When it comes to something being fallacious, no. The one that I usually use is a mistaken belief that is based upon unsound and invalid or invalid arguments. So it's slightly different.
Yeah, because the first one is a mistaken belief, and it doesn't have to be based off of an unsound argument. All right, so give me a second. Let me type out your definition real quick. All right, can you give that to me again?
Sure, a mistaken belief based on unsound or invalid argumentation.
All right. Belief based on unsound.
So it's basically like a failure in reasoning.
Mm-hmm. All right, so do you want to give your definition for deductive reasoning as well, or is the process of reasoning from one or more statements, premises, to reach a logical conclusion?
That seems fine. I would only add to it that that process, like if the premises are true, then necessarily the conclusion must follow. That's what I would add to that.
All right. If by your definition, then my argument would be deductive reasoning doesn't even exist.
Wait, no, well, what do we mean by exist now?
Because, well, would you say that you believe that
Define
you can
exist.
know that exist means that it's true? right? That it is certain.
Wait, what do you mean by certain?
That's just it. It can't. There's no such thing as certain, right?
What?
From an epistemologic
No,
standpoint.
Wait. You have to define the word before you say there's no such thing as it.
All right. You're right.
Okay.
So let's see. Something that is true would be something that is correct within the realm of what we perceive as reality, on the assumption that reality exists.
I'll write it down. Could you repeat it?
So truth would be something that is correct in reality under the assumption that reality exists.
Sure, so what does it mean for something to be correct in reality?
Well, that's the thing. That's the argument that you need to be making, because I don't think
I'm
that
not
that
using
can
these
be a
terms.
thing.
I'm not the one using these terms. You are.
All right. In that case, then what would your definition would be with deductive reasoning? Because this is my question to you, obviously. Because now I'm defending your point.
No, this isn't my point. Fuck off.
All right. So in that case, what if it's not your point? Then we can re-ask the question. What would be your definition of deductive reasoning?
Wait, I already gave it. It's a process by which the truth of the premises guarantees the truth of the conclusions through rules of inference.
All right. So my question would be, what is your definition of truth?
I usually go with for logic. I usually say that something. Oh fuck. Oh, that something is true if it is the case.
All right. So if it is the case.
Yeah.
So if it's just widely accepted, then?
No. Because we're talking about form of logic here. We aren't talking about like, oh hey, what is generally to be the case. No, we're talking about like whether something is absolutely true or false.
All right. And how do you determine that? If it is the case, how would you go about defining that?
Through a truth assignment function. So a truth assignment function is just like literally any function, anything that that has the role of assigning like propositions, the value of being true or false.
All right. So x equals x would be the case.
Sure. If we grab some like a truth assignment function, and plug it into that, and if it tells us that, oh hey, x equals x is true, then sure, it's true.
Wait, so how would you even be able to determine that, though?
Determine what?
Like you're saying that you put into this formula, right? And that if it determines that x equals x, yeah? So
yeah, sure.
How would that function even operate?
That depends on the function.
All right, so give me an example.
Sure.
Maybe I just don't understand what you're saying.
Sure. So examples of truth assignment functions would be things like the laws of logic, or rules of thought, or however you want to put them, and the axioms of conjunction and disjunction. Those things are like truth assignment functions. So like if something is in agreement with those things, then it is true. So like if something doesn't violate, for example, the law of identity, and doesn't violate any other law, then it is true, unless we state that it is false.
All right. So how would this like function in an example?
Oh, sure. So something like, oh god, I have to. An example that doesn't use formal language, I guess, would be fine. Sure. Is that fine with you? Something that doesn't use formal language?
You mean math? Yeah, I love math.
No, I don't mean math. I do not mean math.
Okay. Yeah, sure, I guess.
Yeah. So like one of the rules of inference is called like the distributive rule. So let's just plug in some I guess sentences in there. It is raining. And I guess you can write this down.
Yeah, I am.
Okay, yeah, sure. It is raining, or it is sunny, and I have to use my umbrella. Like it doesn't have to be just those sentences. It could literally be any single sentence at all. It doesn't have to be those.
A Jew for you is pretty cute.
True.
True.
But Liberaven is cuter.
True. Sorry,
Also true.
Mm. These are empirical
no.
facts. I agree. You won. You won the debate.
One would use cute and like hot, because cute,
All right.
like cute would be
No,
like boyish
Libraven's
or
cute,
immature. You won't
and
know. Well,
Jew
Libraven's
is
ugly, but
Kill
it
yourself.
would imply attractive, but attractive.
okay.
is
Let's
boyish.
present. Look, how about James?
No, please
James is
take this
cute.
convo to General 2, please.
Jew is like
Okay.
handsome, if anything, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, go on.
All right. So you define logic as truth, and you define truth as it is the case, and you define that function as immutable facts. Correct?
No, I don't define the truth assignment function as something that is an immutable fact. A truth assignment function is just literally any process that that assigns truth value to any sentence or proposition or anything like that. And then you ask me to give an example.
By this framework, truth is arbitrary at that point, right? Because, like, how can you prove?
Well, yes, it is arbitrary because because the truth assignment function can be literally anything. You can have any axioms at all, like any of
Yes.
them.
So if truth is arbitrary, and deductive reasoning relies on premises that are true, which again, like you said, are arbitrary, then how could there be a logical conclusion?
Wait, because the whole process of logic is just using truth assignment functions that we assume to be true through axioms, and we've already established that those axioms are arbitrary.
All right. So would you say that two premises that would normally be true for one set of axioms will not necessarily be true for another set of axioms? Correct?
Yes.
All right. So wouldn't that mean that the very framework of deductive reasoning is dependent on the axioms of the one using the deductive reasoning, correct?
Yes, but we tend to agree on what the axioms are.
Yeah, likely more than I agree that sometimes, but the very fact that it's not always the case that both premises will be true to equal parties, it is no longer something that can be relied on 100% of the time, correct?
And sure, so your point?
Which means that you have to assume that your deductive reasoning is correct. Based off the assumption that you fare the what?
This is completely different now, because we were just talking about deductive reasoning only works if both parties agree to the same axioms. But now we're saying, oh, deductive reasoning only works if the axioms are correct. Those are two completely different statements. The two people, whether or not the axioms are correct is it's independent of how many people agree with them, because you can't really say that an axiom is correct or not, because to say that would assume another axiom of what should be correct and what shouldn't be. And then you can go to an infinite regress or just assume it.
Correct. Yeah. So you would agree that for deductive reasoning to work, the two premises in the statement must be true to follow a logical line, right?
No, because we aren't. Because like the truth of the two premises, that doesn't matter. It doesn't really impact whether or not deductive reasoning is true or not. It impacts whether whatever you get through deductive reasoning is true or not, but not deductive reasoning itself. To say whether or not deductive reasoning is true or not, you'd have to go through a truth assignment function that is before deductive reasoning, assume certain axioms to just make deductive reasoning work, or go through an infinite regress.
All right. So the statement that two people using deductive reasoning, right, to come up with a conclusion, person A has different axioms than person B, right? Now, the premises that person A is using, for them, are sound, immutable, like what you would consider, like it is raining, and you have to use an umbrella, right?
Sure, they're sound in like the traditional sense, sure, unless you're using some weird definition.
And person B, who has a different set of axioms,
no, wait, retract that. They are true, not sound. Soundness is for arguments, not specific claims.
Yeah. So person B would have, I don't know, maybe like it's really hard to come up with them because I can only view my axioms through myself, right? So person B would be like it is raining, but you don't have to use an umbrella, right? Like these are
sure.
They're conflicting.
Wait, sure. So
they're arguing whether or not the premises are correct.
Yeah, they're arguing about whether or not the premises are true.
Yes, but for one set of axiom, the premise is true, and for the other one, it is not.
Wait, why?
I don't know, because you said before that it's dependent on like their axiomatic perceptions of
yes. So what are the axioms?
Premise.
What are the axioms that we're working under?
I don't know, because like it's kind of weird coming up with a specific axiom to counter this.
Okay, so you can have like it is raining and you don't have to bring out your umbrella as an axiom. Yes, that is possible. But most logical systems don't have that as an axiom. But let's say that
this is just an example, yeah.
Sure, yes. So let's say that in your example that we take those premises to be true axiomatically. In that case, the two people would be conflicting. Sure, they couldn't even speak to each other in that specific sense. But at that point, these axioms don't say anything about deductive reasoning, really. Unless you're dealing with specific premises that deal with rain and umbrellas.
All right, so when it comes to the premises, my argument is of
Wait, Vonks, real quick.
Go ahead.
Quick. Could you please tell me at least one rule of inference?
Like inference? No, I can't. I can't tell you.
Oh. Could you tell me at least a single axiom?
Yeah, sure.
Like of conjunction and disjunction, I mean.
Let's see. I can tell you an axiom and then perhaps it is or isn't. Because you have to understand, I'm not like educated on the terms. I just know how to use them. I don't know. It's like a wrench. I don't know the name of this type of wrench, but I know how to use it.
So you don't know the names of the axioms, but you know how to use them.
Yes.
Sure. Oh, so then you should be able to tell me whether or not this is a valid inference. P implies Q, not P or Q. Is that valid?
P equals Q.
No, not P equals Q.
Not equals.
Wait, say that again. P implies.
Yes, P implies Q. Therefore, not P or Q. Is that a valid inference?
No, I don't think it is. I can't tell.
It is a valid inference. It's
all right. I would need more of an example. I would need like like I said, I'm not like like educated on this particular field. All right.
Okay, sure. You do need to be educated on this to even speak on whether or not the whole system is valid or not, or whatever you want to prove.
I mean, not entirely. Like you'd still be correct about something without knowing the entire
Sure, cool. By
spectrum
chance,
of that subject.
sure, you can do it by chance. Sure, cool. So so then, if you don't know like the symbolic language, then let's use actual sentences. I eat pork every day, therefore I eat pork every day, or God exists. Is that a valid inference?
No, I don't think so.
It is valid.
Yes, it is. It is, yeah.
Because he
I
does,
don't-
and
then
he
what-
does
what
eat
is an
pork every
inf-
day. It's or,
what
right?
is
It's
an-
not and. If it was and, it would be invalid.
He said therefore. He said therefore.
All right. Okay. I just don't
It's
understand
raining
this.
outside, therefore it's raining outside, or God exists. Is that true or false?
No, that's like you can't infer that, right?
Yes, you can.
What do you
Yeah.
mean? I don't then I don't understand this particular
idea
part
called
of inference. Then
disjunction. This is like called like disjunction introduction, right? Blah.
Yes, it is either called logical disjunction, disjunction introduction, or addition.
all right, I need to do more.
Wait, did you say or
I need to
addition?
do more reading into that particular thing because I don't understand why
Here's an example you'll
it's
understand.
valid.
It's super intuitive. So here's a
Yeah.
super intuitive one. So if I say you're allowed to come into my house if you're wearing a red tie or a black tie, then do you have to be wearing 2 ties to come into my house? Of course
No.
not, right?
Yeah, but I
So
could
if
be
I
wearing 2 ties.
You could be. But if somebody was wearing a red tie and I said they're wearing a red tie or a black tie, that would be a true statement, yes?
Yes.
Okay, that's the idea.
Wait,
Alright.
I have a question.
Sure, go for it.
If synthesis said you can only come into my house if you're wearing a red tie or a black tie, and you were wearing both a red tie and a black tie, does that mean you're not allowed in his house?
No, you'd be
No,
allowed.
you're wearing a red tie.
Okay.
You would be
I
allowed if
understand
you were
that
to
now.
wear both.
If I said
Okay,
Zor,
so he would have to
Then it
phrase
wouldn't
it
be.
like
Yeah, or would
you would-
imply A, B, or A and B.
Yeah.
So you would have to
we're
say
assuming an inclusive or here as well. Okay, this is an inclusive or.
Yeah,
Yeah, it would have to be X or.
In logic, if you hear somebody use or, it's almost always going to be inclusive. If they want to specify exclusive or, they'll use some Zor or XOR.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Sounds like a
Vox,
neo pronoun. Never say it again.
All right, so
Vox, what
basically-
made you think
so
that you
wait,
had
to-
any
to
authority
go-
speaking on this?
Hold on one second. So you're saying so P implies Q, therefore not P or Q. So red light implies green light, therefore not red light or green light. Because if it was red
I
light,
guess.
there would be green light, right? Is that what you were saying before?
I don't know what you said like the
Alright,
last
hold on, I'll
thing, but
repeat it.
sure, it's basically that. Sure, if you
Alright,
can enter.
okay, I understand it now.
actual
Go ahead.
words. Sure. So is that a valid inference to say that if green light implies red light, is that it? Is that what you put?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Green light implies red light, therefore red light or therefore not red light or green light.
No.
because...
It's therefore not green light or red light.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I forgot what I said first. But it's implying, so the implication is basically this implies that. So if this is not there, then that is also not correct. Because they're implying each other. Like one's implying the other. Therefore, without one, there is not the other.
No, you're wrong on this. That's not how logical
Alright.
operators work. That's not how implication works. The only way
Alright,
that one would imply the other is with a biconditional or a bi-implication.
Alright, don't worry. It's alright. Just continue as if I do understand what you're saying, and I'll figure it out on the way.
Thing is, though, it's actually important that you understand what's happening and not just like a cursory glance, based off of I guess what you've been hearing right now and nothing in depth. It's actually really important that you understand what you're talking about before you go off talking about it.
Hold on. So I don't know where you're going with it, because my only argument is that the reason that deductive reasoning is a fallacy is because that having true premises isn't possible.
Sure. So deductive reasoning doesn't say the premises are true. It never claims that. It doesn't say that. It just says if the premises are true, then this is what follows. Necessarily, it doesn't say the premises
Yes,
are
but
true indeed.
yeah, but also it's to reach a logical conclusion on what is true. But what
Oh,
is true is also
sure.
arbitrary.
Sure. Then you need to assume certain things to be true. But that
Correct,
isn't
but
really
just
fallacious.
exactly, that's what I said. Yeah, I'm saying though, the fact that it's an assumption, and it would have to be like
Sure, that's
truth
not
has to be
fallacious.
assumed. Wait, see, let me read back where I put my notes. God damn it, there. So, when you're assuming something, wouldn't you say that is a mistaken belief?
Not necessarily.
Would you say that the argument of assumption is a sound argument?
Yes.
Well, it's necessarily true, but we can't. But soundness only applies to arguments, not claims. Because when we assume something, I guess that yes, you could assume an argument to be true, um, in in which case, then you'd only need to check like, oh hey, does it necessarily follow? But what deductive reasoning assumes are propositions, are like basically claims and sentences, not full-on arguments.
All right. So, would you say that a claim based on assumption is a valid claim?
Depends on what you mean by valid.
True.
Yes, and what we mean by valid within logic, validity doesn't apply to
No, by your
claims.
definition of true. By your definition of true.
Sure, cool. Either way, validity. First off, validity doesn't say that. Oh, yes, the premises are true. It's like, oh, if the premises were true, then it would necessarily follow. But this applies
Fine.
to
Then
arguments,
ignore what I
not
said.
claims.
Ignore what I'm not going to replace validity with true. Would you say that a claim based off assumption is true?
Depends on your truth. This really depends on your truth assignment function and like what you use to come to say whether something is true or not.
All right. So
Wait.
your definition of
Before we
what
continue.
true?
Wait,
Yeah, go ahead.
before we continue, could you repeat to me in your own words what I just said?
All right. So basically, what you're saying is that what is true is determined on the function of it, right? So it's very fickle, like we said before, and that's my argument: is that the truth is very fickle. So for you to say something is true, which you can't definitively say, therefore the premises cannot also be true, which means any claim made off of deductive reasoning would still be an assumptive based claim, which in itself you would have to go off of what is true, which is it's kind of like almost an infinite loop, wouldn't you agree?
Sure, we already agreed. However, your initial statement that started this whole conversation was that deductive reasoning is fallacious.
Yes.
So now defend that, because we aren't here to defend, oh hey, is truth arbitrary? That's a whole different thing. You're here to defend deductive reasoning is fallacious, and you've already agreed on a definition of fallacious, so now prove how reasoning is fallacious without using any other reasoning to come to that conclusion, and if you can, then prove how that reasoning itself isn't fallacious.
All right, so let's see. When it comes to deductive reasoning, you're assuming the truth, which we already said is fickle. Now, because of it being fickle, it is a belief that is founded on it is a claim founded on a mistaken belief, especially one based
whoa,
on unsound argument, because
whoa.
because you're assuming truth,
Sure,
which
sure.
is
So here's a couple of
unsound.
things. One, there no arguments. I haven't really made any arguments for why deductive reasoning is correct or true. I've never done that. Some people do try to do that, but I haven't. So concepts such as soundness and validity wouldn't apply to any of my arguments. And
Right, so you don't even disagree with me?
not exactly. It's that the concepts, the way that you're using those concepts, is incredibly stupid.
I mean, that's fair game. But we don't even disagree on the argument I'm making then.
Wait. You also said that that assuming something would mean that it is a mistaken belief. When you asked me, I didn't say that it is a mistaken belief, but I said not necessarily to prove that it is a mistaken belief. Why is it a mistaken belief? For us to assume the axioms that are necessary for deductive reasoning to work. And what do you mean by a mistaken belief?
A mistaken belief is one that's founded. It's basically like it not founded in truth, right? But because of the definition of truth, comes in kind of paradoxical, circular.
Wait. So a mistaken belief is one that isn't founded on truth. What do you mean by not founded on truth? Do you mean that it isn't true? Or why?
Correct.
Sure. And we've already said that we can just assume truth. We have agreed on that, right?
Yes. But what
Yes.
one perceives as truth, another might not, because of
Sure,
axiomatic beliefs, not necessarily
cool.
because of a hard stance on what. There's no empirical truth. Like there is nothing that can be true.
We aren't talking about empirical claims.
I know. I'm just saying, like, because of that, truth is arbitrary, and because of that, it's a mistaken belief to believe in truth, which is a paradox within itself.
So no, you'd be incorrect, because to say that it is mistaken, to say that truth is something that can be assigned to anything, the truth is true, you'd have to assume that we can put truth on anything. So you'd be basically contradicting yourself and saying, "Oh yes, we can't. If we assume truth, we are mistaken here." When you yourself are already assuming truth and saying that something is wrong.
Yeah, but that's because we can never know anything. We can't even know whether or not we can't know.
Cool. So this was never really introduced in any of your arguments.
Well, that's because we were just laying down the foundation of your definitions first. I was trying to make the argument before, but then you doing the P implies Q, therefore not P or Q. Like that's when you started talking about that. But I was trying to explain, like, my argument is that because you can't know anything already, truth is even more arbitrary than what we've already established.
Cool. So what do you mean by truth?
Truth is not a thing that exists.
Sorry,
it's
not
just
truth.
a concept.
Not truth. What do you mean by no?
To something that is certain, as in
name one thing.
There's nothing that is certain. That's the thing.
So your definition of truth is useless.
That's because I'm trying to explain that truth doesn't exist. Like you can't have the definition of truth doesn't exist. It's a paradox.
Sure. So then, is it true that it is not true that truth is certain?
That's just it, though. You can't know that we can't know.
Wait. So
then you don't know whether. So then something can be true,
yeah,
right?
that's the issue again. truth is a paradox. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, cool. So then, why would we use a concept that is contradictory?
What do you mean? Like, what's the utility in it?
No, your concept of truth is contradictory, and I assume that we are assuming here that we shouldn't use things that are contradictory, correct?
Yes, truth is contradictory.
Sure. So why should we assign truth value to anything?
You mean from a utilitarian perspective?
No, not from a utilitarian perspective. From whatever perspective you wish to do it from.
That would be like, why use truth?
Yes.
It would have to come from a utilitarian perspective.
Okay, cool. Then do that.
All right. The reason that we use truth is because we have to be able to make choices, and without setting these things in stone in our heads,
Okay, cool. But
like we
sure.
just fall into an existential depression.
Sure, cool. So before even assuming, before even saying that truth is useful, even if it is,
It is
even if we
useful.
can't, sure. So even before you were to say that truth is useful, even if it isn't certain, you'd be assuming that it is true, that we can assume things, and that also that it is true, um, that like we have to that things need to have some use. Why are you assuming these things, and why are you putting some form of truth value? Because assumption does carry with it a truth value, as we've defined.
Like I said, it would have to come from a utilitarian perspective, right?
Oh, so why
And
are you
even then,
assuming
and it would have to go
utilitarianism?
off the crux of my axiomatic values of what I consider to be utility at that point.
So we assume truth because of utilitarianism, but then we'd have to assume utilitarianism, and to assume utilitarianism, we would have to assume some form of truth.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's a paradox. I said that multiple times. But the thing is, when it comes to the utility of assuming truth exists. Wait, hold on. What did I? All right, so let me restart that sentence.
It's not that it's a paradox.
The reason that we
it's
do
that
that,
you're stupid.
All right, the reason that we believe in truth is based off of our need to want to not live in a universe where we're in an existential depression all the time.
Why are we assuming
Questioning
the
our
universe? Why are we
existence.
assuming that we can question? Why are we assuming that we exist? And why are we assuming that we can also have the property of being depressed? And why wouldn't we want that?
We don't know.
Oh, cool. So it isn't certain? So it isn't true? What do you mean by that?
Wait, what do you mean?
No, wait. I'm asking you. You're using these terms. You were the one that says, "Oh, we don't know of these things." So what do you mean by that? What do you mean that we don't know whether, like, oh, the universe exists, we exist, we can have depression and all that?
What do I mean by that?
Yes.
Or
what do you mean that we don't know that?
Yeah, because we don't know if we exist. Yeah, what's confusing about this statement?
What do you mean by that? Tell me, define what it is to know.
For example, we could like be brains in a jar, I guess, or like the universe could have just been created like 5 seconds ago, or we could all be dreaming, or I could be dreaming and none of this is happening. Like there are multiple ways for that.
Sure, so the ways that you've mentioned is of the universe being a physical thing and not just in our perceptions, and that's it. You still have to now justify why are you assuming that you exist and that you can have perceptions and that you can also have the state of being depressed.
Well, we don't.
So why are you assuming that?
Because of axiomatic values, you have to use it's based off of a utilitarian standpoint, based off of what I consider to be useful.
Okay, cool. So you're assuming it. Cool. So would you say that you assuming all of that is equally as fallacious as someone else assuming all of the axioms necessary for deductive reasoning?
Yes.
And you did say that we. Oh wait. Do you think that we shouldn't operate based off of mistaken beliefs?
Wait, say that again?
Do you think that we shouldn't operate based off of mistaken belief?
No.
So you do think that we should operate under off of mistaken belief?
Yes.
Okay, sure. So what mistaken? So can I just operate based off of like the premise or claim that pigs can fly?
You may do that if you wish.
Sure, but would you consider that correct? Should I do that?
Would I consider correct? No.
So there are claims. So there are mistaken beliefs that you would consider that you would say, oh, we shouldn't operate off of these. So what mistaken beliefs should we
No,
operate
no.
off of?
You can operate off of it. For
No,
me, I would say no.
I'm not asking whether I can or cannot. I'm asking you whether I should.
Yeah, I mean, if that's what you want to do, then go for it. I mean, you're the one that's coming up with your what you consider to be the utilitarian aspect of your perception of reality based off of your axiomatic values.
Sure. So what's the utility even in describing something as true and something as not true or false?
So that we can communicate, I suppose, so that
Okay,
we can interact.
Why would it matter if it's something is true or false?
It's to avoid existentialism.
Why would it cause existentialism to not have that?
Well, yeah.
Because if you constantly live in an existence where you don't believe that there's an existence, it could cause.
What's existentialism?
Existentialism is like black pill.
That's nihilism, but okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So
basically,
now,
there's no meaning. There's no meaning to anything.
Wait, that's nihilism.
yes. Listen, ignore his misuse of terminology. It happens often.
He's not wrong. I don't defend that. Listen, I never claimed to be a genius, alright?
What's your IQ?
Pong.
I said it's 30.
True.
Oh god.
Sure. So, okay. So to avoid this existential harm or whatever, we should be able to communicate truth and true and false. We should communicate truth value. Why? Why should we communicate truth value to avoid this existentialism?
I got disconnected. I don't know what was said the last
Oh, okay, that's fine.
20 seconds.
So you said that to avoid this nihilism or existentialism, we need to believe in truth. So why is that? Why do we need to communicate or believe in some form of truth value to avoid existentialism,
Right.
if that is what we
And
want to do?
I do not know why.
Then why would you claim that?
Well, I know. I mean, like, the reason that we do it is to avoid existentialism. I do not know why we why we avoid existentialism.
Oh, so you yourself aren't claiming that. Okay, so what are you claiming about truth? Why do we, for you, why do we need truth value, if at all?
The reason that we need to assume truth value is because we wouldn't be able to reasonably go throughout making assumptions, assertions. We wouldn't be able to come to conclusions.
Okay, cool. Sure, but what I'm about to say is taking place before we assume any sort of truth value at all. So before we even establish what truth is or what truth value is under your little justification, we would have to assume everything that you just said that we want to do, like that conclusions are a thing, that we can reach them, that we want to reach them. We have to assume that all of those things are true, which would assume a truth value.
All right, go ahead.
So like, what is that truth value? That how would you determine whether your assumptions are true or not?
By using deductive reasoning.
So you're using deductive reasoning to come to the conclusion that deductive reasoning should be used.
Essentially, yeah.
And you, well, of course you have to realize that this is all circular, super circular.
Yes.
Okay, sure. So and why assume deductive reasoning specifically?
Because
You can come to
there are no
conclusions
other
with other.
alternatives.
Yes, there are. There are many more.
Well, there are other alternatives, but none that are as appealing.
Sure. Okay. Sure. Cool. So, under deductive reasoning, what logical system are you operating under?
What system?
Logical system. I know para-consistent logic, first-order logic, predicate calculus. What?
I wouldn't be able to tell you. I don't know the
Okay, sure, cool.
specific terms.
Okay, so you operate under some system of logic that you just assume to then prove that same system of logic. You just don't know what it is.
Yes, because I don't have like. How else am I supposed to operate?
Sure, cool.
Right?
And sure. And that system of logic is fallacious because according to you, it assumes certain things, and assuming is fallacious.
Yes, but I turn that part off of my brain and ignore it.
Oh, okay, sure.
Because
cool.
then.
Sure,
Like,
but this is
'cause
an
I have
intellectual
to.
discussion, not playground talk. So we don't just turn off our brains when we want to.
No, I'm saying like it's in the back of my head, but like that it like when I use deductive reasoning, that it is in some form because I do not know if what I'm doing is correct, right? Or even if I'm doing anything. But because I have no way to really deal with that, I still have to continue on as if this is empirical.
Sure, poggers. That's absolutely poggers and all. But I don't care if you actually turn that part of your brain off or if you ignore that it's all fallacious or not. Let's deal with the fact that that you said that it is fallacious. The deductive reasoning assumes that we shouldn't use fallacious arguments. So, like, if you're using some form of fallacious argument, or if you claim that something is fallacious, then you shouldn't use it under deductive reasoning.
For example,
Like you like what you've just said to start this whole thing, that deductive reasoning is fallacious, and deductive reasoning tells us that we shouldn't operate under like fallacious argumentation. So why believe in deductive reasoning when deductive reasoning tells us to not believe in deductive reasoning?
my argument wasn't why I believe in it. It's only that if you're going off of
No, you're
like
saying that it is fallacious.
epistemology, that it would be like that you can't know anything, then it would be a fallacy. And that is like you also believe that you can't know anything, correct?
Possibly. So, under what field does the term what field uses the term fallacy?
It's probably epistemology, right?
No, logic.
Considering
It's logic.
the.
It's logic.
All right.
It's not
I mean,
epistemology. So we aren't going to go into epistemology just yet. When we're focusing on whether something's fallacious and whether we should believe in it or not.
all right.
Sure, cool. So you said that deductive reasoning is fallacious, correct?
I'm sorry. Repeat.
You said that deductive reasoning is fallacious. Do you still hold by that?
Yes.
Okay. So then, deductive reasoning, one of its assumptions is that we shouldn't use invalid forms of argumentation, which are also known as fallacious arguments. We shouldn't use fallacious arguments. I assume that
I
you
mean,
also assumed that, because you are assuming deductive reasoning.
we shouldn't use fallacious arguments. I mean, no, I don't believe that to be the case, actually, because in order for you, because deductive reasoning, I believe, is a fallacious argument, so you would have to use, but it's still useful, because just because something is fallacious doesn't make it incorrect.
Wait, so if I were to read off the definition, it wouldn't say anything about it being correct or not?
Yeah.
A mistaken belief,
No.
especially one based on unsound argument.
Yeah, but we know that there's a fallacy, right? Just because it's a fallacy doesn't make it incorrect.
Wait, sure, cool.
Like
So what
an argument founded. Wait, hold on one second. Let me explain a bit more detailed. So a fallacy, like an argument made on a mistaken belief, that doesn't mean that it's incorrect. It just means that it's on a mistaken belief. It can still be correct even though it's founded on a mistaken belief. You agree?
Hold on. Let's see what the fallacy says.
Like, for example, if I said 2 plus 2 equals 4 because the great Cthulhu said so, like, that would be a conclusion made on a mistaken belief, and it would be like an unsound argument.
It would
but
be
it would
unsound.
still be correct.
So first of all, when we're talking about whether something is sound or invalid, we're talking about the arguments. The argument would be sound, invalid, and fallacious. But the conclusion can be true either way.
Yes,
sure,
that's what
cool.
I'm saying.
So are we talking here about arguments for deductive reasoning, or whether or not deductive reasoning itself is fallacious?
Wait, say that again. Whether or not
are we talking about whether or not your argument for deductive reasoning is fallacious, or whether or not deductive reasoning itself is fallacious?
Deductive reasoning itself is fallacious.
Cool. So when we say that, a claim is fallacious, a claim specifically, and not an argument, the part of the definition of fallacy that says a mistaken belief. Do you know what a mistaken belief is?
Yes, it's when that you believe that the answer comes from something that is incorrect. Like, for example, like 2 plus 2 equals 4 because God said so.
Sure, we might be using different definitions of what mistaken belief is.
All right, what's your definition?
Sure, so a mistaken belief is a belief that is wrong, that has the truth value of being false. So is that what you mean by it? It's a yes or no question.
All right,
okay, cool.
So
then,
under the assumption that God's not real, and I made that original statement that I made, right? Then
sure,
it would
cool.
be a mistaken belief.
Cool, poggers. Good for that argument. Cool. So going back to your actual argument, to your actual claim, and now that you've agreed that a mistaken belief is one that is wrong, that is false, then deductive reasoning would be false because it is fallacious.
Yes.
Yes. So it would not be the case that deductive reasoning is true, and whatever it contains within it.
Yes, deductive reasoning. Well, no, because true as
Just
in like the conclusion or the premise that it's on.
It's not an argument; it's a proposition. We just said, oh, we aren't here arguing about your arguments for deductive reasoning, but deductive reasoning itself. So deductive reasoning itself. So just not the conclusion or the premise, but just the claim.
All right. Yes, that is fallacious. Yes.
Yes. And fallacious is a mistaken belief, especially one founded on unsound or invalid arguments. And yes, and you've agreed that a mistaken belief is one that is false. So then deductive reasoning is false. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Cool. what false things do you think that we should believe in false things? Do you think that?
I mean, when it comes, it depends on like the utility of it,
I
right?
know.
Like I said before, like whether or not you believe in something, depends on utility, like how you perceive it as being useful to you.
Okay, sure. So we aren't current we aren't exactly talking about morality right now, but about truth value. We can talk about morality when we go to the if we go to the foundations of truth. But right now we are talking about like whether or not I guess okay, no, we are talking about morality. Sure. So I guess if we can follow false, or if we can use like false things, what's even the point of declaring them false? Because the reason that I declare them that I declare things false is like, oh, these are things that I shouldn't be basing my actions off of, or anything that I believe off of. To you, what does it mean for something to be false?
Like, because technically for me, I believe like everything is false, including existence, right?
What do you mean by false then?
False means not certain, incorrect,
Okay, what do you mean by incorrect?
as in can't be proven to be true.
Sure. So when so you'd say that that I don't know it is the case that I exist
I
and
mean,
that I don't exist, both at the same time. Would you call that false? Would you say that I'm incorrect, that I'm mistaken in my belief?
well, I have to backpedal a bit because it wouldn't
It's a
just be
simple
something
yes or
that
no.
no, because like I'm thinking about it because it's not just like things that can't be proven to be true. It's also things that are proven to be untrue, right? Like, because the thing about what is false is basically the opposite of what is true, but because truth doesn't exist, therefore false doesn't exist too, wouldn't it?
What do you mean by exist now? Stop using a lot of terms.
All right. So what I'm saying is, if I do not know, like it is, like if we do not know that reality even exists in itself, right? How are we supposed to distinguish between true and false? Wouldn't they both be equally as non-existent?
I guess if you were to say that, if you were to say that any elements of reality, that the property of not being true of reality would also be would also be like a property of the elements of reality, then that truth is a property of reality, then sure.
Exactly. So when you're asking me what is false, it's the same answer as what is true, which is like we don't know. We do not know. That's the issue.
So why are we using terms that we don't even know what they mean or whether they are true or whether
Because
they?
of utility. It gives us utility. It allows us to conversate.
So sure. So why are we assuming utility then?
I don't know why we do that.
Okay, why do you assume utility?
I do not know.
So you have no reasons for your claims.
No, I don't have. Well, I don't have any reasons as to why I come to these claims. Yeah, exactly. Like, do you know why that you
Should I
come to your?
believe them?
Should you believe them?
Well, I don't believe your claims, if that's what you're asking.
No. What did you ask? You asked. I was repeating your question back at you
Oh,
because I didn't know what you meant.
sure. So what I asked was, why should we believe your claims?
You
Like,
shouldn't.
oh, okay, cool. Then this discussion is pointless. Now go off and rot.
So you give up? You done?
Yes, this is pointless.
All right. I'll take
Why
the
would you
W.
argue for something that you don't believe in?
No, he asked me why should he believe it, and I said he shouldn't. He has no reason to.
Sure, cool. So this entire discussion was pointless. Please come back when you actually have a point in any discussion that you're going to talk into.
Wait, I made the point that you agree that we can't know anything, right? So you already understand my point of view on why I think that deductive reasoning is a fallacy, correct? Like you can steel man my argument, right?
Because every time that I ask you, you introduce new terms that we then have to establish, and once we establish those new terms, we.
Yeah, this is going to be a long conversation. That's why I start. I knew that we were going to get in a situation where we had to keep defining new terms. That's why I started writing from the very beginning.
So I would say at least with a few Wikipedia articles, read more and like what logic is, and
send me some information and I'll learn it.
Sure, cool. Oh, and also read on the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, please.
Send it to me. Send it to me.
Sure.
Where'd you post it? No, send it to my DMs.
Sure.
Blah.
What?
That was incredibly impressive that you did that for as long as you did.
Well, I wanted to kill myself all the way through.
Yeah, I see. Blah's superpower is that he's already dead on the inside. But we're going to come back to this argument. This is the 5th time we've debated this.
Wait, no, Vox,
Second.
he's already dead.
Is it? No, we debated this more than twice.
There was the first time where I banned you from Twitch server for being too stupid.
No, this was before the first time we did it. You didn't have mod powers at the time.
Not on this server, but on Twitch server I did. And I didn't ban you because I wasn't okay. The first time I didn't ban you because I wasn't certain whether the others would be cool with that. Then the second time I just banned you because fuck you.
Mm-hmm.
And now
and this would be
here.
The 3rd or so.
Yes, around there.
All right. And then we're gonna keep it going until one of us dies.
Well, I mean, we live fairly closely. I guess I can just do a drive-by.
Ha ha ha! I mean, you would have to shoot through so much concrete.
Wait, but he's black. He has an inherent skill for it.
Oh, of course. all handgun bullets are 50 cals. You get increased gun damage, but you have increased aggro against cops. That's the trade-off.
Listen, as long as I get to kill you, it's great. Don't worry, I'll post it on the website.
I do appreciate the debate, though. Like I said before, I'm not super educated on all of these inference, the rules of inference, things like that. But I am able to pick up on information pretty quickly, like learning the fundamentals of quantum physics in a lunch break type of way.
Sure.
When you said determinism was false because you read the Wikipedia page.
No. I said if you believe in determinism, you would also have to believe that there are multiple Earths in the same universe because of how quantum physics work.
You also said that it was false because of this, but we can pretend like you didn't say that.
Okay, cool.
No, I never said that it's
cool.
Wait, hold on.
Wait, hold on.
I would never make the claim that determinism is false.
Oh, you did.
I would only ever make the claim that being a determinist is a cop-out and you're a pussy for doing it.
Wait, Fox.
Why is it a cop-out?
Because it means